Hey everyone, buckle up because today we're diving deep into the world of kidney health.
Yeah, those often overlooked organs working tirelessly behind the scenes.
Seriously, their job description is way more impressive than I ever imagined.
Trust me, it's way more fascinating than you might think.
So to kick things off, let's do a quick refresher.
Sounds good.
What exactly are our kidneys up to in there and why should we care?
Okay, so picture this. Your kidneys are like super sophisticated coffee filters for your blood.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Every single day, they process about 200 quarts of blood, filtering out waste products and keeping the good stuff flowing.
200 quarts. How much is that like in normal people terms?
Think of it this way. They're filtering a bathtub's worth of blood 3 times over every single day.
Wow, 3 bathtubs full. No wonder those things are so important. But, the source material keeps mentioning kidney disease, and I think it's easy to assume it's all the same, but it's not, right?
You're absolutely right. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Okay, good to know.
It's kind of like how a common cold is totally different from a really nasty, lingering case of the flu,
Okay, so like different levels of severity.
Exactly. Acute kidney injury, that's like the sudden cold, often caused by things like, dehydration. It can be serious for sure, but it's often reversible.
Okay, so that's somewhat reassuring.
But then you have chronic kidney disease, and that's more like the slow-burning fluid develops over time, often due to other underlying conditions.
So one's a sudden storm, the other's a slow drip that causes damage over time.
A very accurate way to put it.
And that chronic kind, it's often called a silent killer, which honestly sounds pretty ominous.
It's called that for a reason, unfortunately.
Yeah, I bet.
Because the early signs, they're so easy to miss. Like, you might feel a little more tired than usual, maybe some swelling, some changes in how often you need to pee.
Right, stuff that most people would probably just shrug off, right?
Exactly. And that's the danger, because by the time the really obvious, alarming symptoms show up, things have often progressed quite a bit.
That is concerning. So who should be extra vigilant about this? Like who should maybe talk to their doctor about kidney health even if they're not experiencing any major red flags?
Well, if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, those are definitely major risk factors, so it's worth having a conversation with your doctor.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it's not just those family history of kidney problems, simply getting older, even lifestyle choices like smoking, these can all increase your risk.
So a real mix of things we can and can't control.
Right, exactly.
But before we dive into what we can do, the article I was reading kept mentioning something called GFR. Is that some kind of kidney rating system or what?
Yeah, you could call it that. GFR stands for glomerular filtration rate.
Okay, that sounds a little complicated.
It sounds way more complicated than it is, honestly.
Okay.
It's basically just a measure of how well your kidneys are doing their job, specifically how efficiently they're filtering your blood.
So like a report card for your kidneys.
Exactly.
I like that.
And knowing your GFR is really important because it helps determine, are your kidneys functioning normally? Or is there something we need to look into further?
Okay, so knowing your GFR is important, but how do doctors actually figure out where someone lands on that scale? Like, how do they determine if your kidneys are doing an A+ job or if they need a little extra help?
Yeah, so that's where the staging comes in. There are actually 5 stages of chronic kidney disease, and they range from very mild damage all the way to, in the most serious cases, complete kidney failure.
Oh, wow, 5 stages. So it really runs the gamut.
It does, and knowing what stage you're at is really crucial because it helps determine the best course of action.
So it's like levels of damage, and each level needs a different game plan.
Exactly.
Let's talk about those treatment options for a bit. If someone is diagnosed with kidney disease, what can they expect? Is it all doom and gloom, or are there things that can be done?
It's definitely not all doom and gloom. Thankfully, there's a lot that can be done, and it really depends on how far along the disease is.
Okay, that's somewhat reassuring.
In the early stages, simple lifestyle changes can make a world of difference. Things like cleaning up your diet, incorporating regular exercise.
So those healthy habits we hear so much about really do matter.
They really, really do. Then, as the disease progresses, medications might become necessary to help manage the symptoms and slow down the progression.
And in the most serious cases, what are the options?
Well, in the most advanced cases, dialysis or a kidney transplant might be considered as treatment options.
Okay, so dialysis and kidney transplants, those are the big guns, right? When it gets serious.
Yeah, when kidney function is really compromised, that's when these options come into play. Dialysis, it basically steps in to do the job your kidneys can't do anymore, filtering your blood externally.
So it's like, what, hooking you up to a machine that cleans your blood for you?
You got it. It's a pretty incredible technology, actually.
I bet. Are there different types of dialysis?
Yeah, there are two main types, hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis. Hemodialysis is the one most people think of. It's usually done at a center a few times a week.
Okay, so a bit of a time commitment there.
It can be, yeah. But then there's peritoneal dialysis, and that one's kind of cool because you can actually do it at home.
Whoa, at home. So you don't have to go to a center all the time.
Exactly. It offers a lot more flexibility and freedom for some people.
That's got to be a game changer.
It can be a huge help for sure. But, the best option really depends on the individual, their overall health, their lifestyle.
Makes sense. It's not one size fits all.
Now, kidney transplantation, that's the other major approach we talked about. This is where a healthy kidney from a donor is surgically implanted.
Yeah, organ transplantation is amazing. I read a bit about it, and it's incredible how far it's come.
It really is remarkable. And, the donor can be either living or deceased.
Wow, so even after someone passes away, they can still give this incredible gift.
It's really quite powerful. Of course, it's not a simple process. There are a lot of factors that go into deciding who receives a transplant.
I bet it's not like you just raise your hand and say, I need a kidney, right?
Haha, not quite. There's a whole team of medical professionals who evaluate potential recipients. They look at things like overall health, age, blood type compatibility, all sorts of factors.
So it's a big decision, a lot of careful consideration.
Absolutely. And, one thing that really struck me while reading this article is that it's not just the physical aspects of kidney disease that people have to deal with. There's a huge mental and emotional component as well.
That makes sense. I mean, just the thought of having a chronic illness is scary enough.
It absolutely can be. So finding ways to cope with the stress, the uncertainty, that's a big part of living with kidney disease.
So what are some things people can do to manage that emotional side of things? The article mentioned anything helpful?
Yeah, one thing that kept coming up was the importance of finding a support system.
Like family, friends, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. But also support groups, online communities, places where you can connect with others who understand what you're going through.
That's so important, that feeling that you're not alone.
Right. It makes a world of difference. And along those same lines, open communication with your loved ones is huge. Let them know how you're feeling, what you're going through, what you need from them.
That makes a lot of sense. Communication is key in any relationship, right?
It really is.
But, we've talked about how serious kidney disease can be, this silent killer idea.
Yeah.
But what I found really encouraging was all the stuff about prevention. It made me feel like there are things we can do to protect ourselves.
I completely agree. It's not about feeling helpless. It's about taking charge of your health.
Exactly. And a lot of it comes down to those basic healthy habits we've all heard a million times, right?
Yeah.
Like managing your blood sugar, keeping that blood pressure in check.
Drinking enough water. That one seems so simple, but it's amazing how many people don't do it.
I know I'm guilty of that.
Me too. But it really does make a difference. And then there's watching your salt intake, which is about more than just how much you're shaking on your food.
Right. It's about all the hidden sodium in processed foods, too.
Exactly. So yeah, being mindful of what you're eating, reading those labels.
Being an informed consumer, it all ties into taking care of ourselves.
I love that. And hey, don't underestimate the power of those regular checkups, especially if you have any of those risk factors we talked about. Diabetes, high blood pressure, family history, any of that. Catching things early is key.
Yeah, it's way easier to stay healthy than to get healthy, right? We've all heard that one.
Truer words have never been spoken.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the basics, what our kidneys do, how they can go wrong, and ways to protect them. But I gotta say, the part that really blew my mind was the stuff about all the new treatments on the horizon. It's like getting a sneak peek into the future of kidney care.
I know, right? It's a super exciting time for this field. Like, you've got researchers working on gene therapy, which could be revolutionary for those with inherited kidney diseases.
Gene therapy, that's where they're literally messing with your genes, right?
Pretty much. They're working on ways to either correct or replace those faulty genes that are causing the problem in the first place.
That is wild.
And then there's stem cell therapy, which is another super promising area. The idea is to use stem cells to actually regenerate damaged kidney tissue.
Wait, so potentially reversing the damage altogether. That's insane.
It sounds like science fiction, but it could be a reality in the not too distant future.
That's incredibly hopeful. And, speaking of hope, I was really struck by how much the article emphasized the importance of self-care for people with kidney disease.
Absolutely. And self-care isn't just about the bubble baths and face masks. It's about actively prioritizing your well-being physically, mentally, emotionally.
It's about giving yourself permission to take care of yourself, which I think a lot of us, especially women, struggle with.
So true. It's easy to put everyone else's needs before our own. But when you're dealing with a health challenge, self-care is non-negotiable.
Totally agree. What kind of self-care practices does the article recommend?
Well, mindfulness and meditation came up a lot. Those can be really powerful tools for managing stress and anxiety, which, let's be real, often go hand in hand with chronic illnesses.
For sure. Taking time for yourself to just breathe and be present, that can make a world of difference.
Totally. And it doesn't have to be a big formal meditation practice. Even just a few minutes of deep breathing throughout the day can help.
Absolutely. Little things add up. Did the article mention anything else in terms of self-care?
Yeah, they also talked about finding joy in the simple things, hobbies, spending time in nature, listening to music, whatever brings you a sense of peace and happiness.
It's easy to forget about those things when you're going through a tough time, but they're so important.
They really are. It's about remembering that life is still worth living, even with a chronic illness. You deserve to experience joy and find moments of peace and beauty in your day.
Beautifully said. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the mechanics of our kidneys to the very real emotional journey of living with kidney disease. And we've even gotten a glimpse into the future of treatment, which is incredibly exciting.
It's been a wild ride. And one thing that really stands out to me is just how much information and support is out there. You don't have to navigate this alone.
Right, and that's such a powerful message. It really is, and this article does such a great job of highlighting those resources.
It really does. Like that last section, the one about all the additional resources that can provide support and guidance. It's like they knew we were going to talk about this and wanted to make sure people knew where to turn. Seriously. It's so important to remember that you don't have to go through this alone.
Not at all. There are so many incredible organizations out there doing amazing work to support those with kidney disease, practically, emotionally, you name it.
For sure. The article specifically mentions the National Kidney Foundation, or NKF, and the American Kidney Fund, the AKF. What are those all about?
Oh, they are powerhouses in the world of kidney health, let me tell you.
Okay, good to know. What makes them so great?
Their websites alone. Seriously,
yeah.
they're treasure troves of information. You want to know the basics of how your kidneys work? They've got you covered. You want to hear about the latest breakthroughs in treatment and research? Bam, it's right there.
So they're like a one-stop shop for all things kidney. Exactly. But it's not just information, they go above and beyond. They have these amazing support services, connect people with local support groups, and in some cases, they even offer financial assistance for treatment.
Wow, that's incredible. It's really heartening to hear about organizations stepping up like that, providing real, tangible support to the people who need it most.
It's really inspiring.
The article also mentioned this other group, the Kidney Disease Improving Global Outcomes Group. KDIGO, that's a mouthful. What's their role in all of this?
KDIGO, they're more on the clinical side of things. They focus on developing evidence-based guidelines for the care and treatment of kidney disease.
Oh, okay. So more like the behind-the-scenes folks, making sure the doctors have the most up-to-date info.
Exactly. Think of them as like the quality control, making sure patients are getting the best possible care based on the most recent research.
I like it. They're like the kidney guardians, making sure everyone's on the same page.
I love that analogy. And their work is honestly so essential, constantly pushing for better ways to diagnose, treat, and hopefully one day prevent kidney disease altogether.
It's amazing how much goes on behind the scenes that we never even hear about.
It really is. And it's not just organizations doing this critical work either,
Oh, yeah. What else?
The article also mentioned some big names in the medical world institutions like the Mayo Clinic and the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, or NIDDK for short.
Oh, wow. Those are heavy hitters. Everyone's heard of the Mayo Clinic.
For sure, and for good reason. Both of these institutions are renowned for their research and patient care, and they have tons of information about kidney disease on their websites.
Okay, so if someone wants to really get into the nitty-gritty of kidney disease, those are the places to go.
Absolutely. They're known for providing trustworthy, evidence-based information in a way that's easy to understand.
That's almost overwhelming,
Yeah.
But in a good way. Like, it's a little intimidating to think about all the things we need to do to protect our health, but it's also empowering to realize how much information and support is out there. You're not alone in this. There are people and organizations who want to help.
That's what I kept thinking about as I was reading this article. Like, yes, kidney disease is a serious thing, but there's a whole community ready to rally around you to provide guidance, support, and hope.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about finding your people, your resources, your sources of strength.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. This has been an incredible deep dive, and I have to say I've learned so much. I knew our kidneys were important, but I had no idea just how vital they are to our overall health.
Me too. It's one of those things you don't really think about until something goes wrong. But the truth is, we all need to be proactive about our kidney health.
Absolutely. So, to our amazing listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to take charge of your kidney health. Remember, information is power and prevention is key. Even small changes can make a big difference, and there's a whole world of support out there if you need it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. To our listeners, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep taking care of those amazing bean-shaped organs. We'll be back soon with another fascinating deep dive, ready to empower